Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Larry Force, and I'm a clinician with the National Organization of Adult Addiction and Recovery. The National Organization is a nonprofit that was established both by my friend Dave Brinkerhoff, who is the chairman of the board of MARC, and Jim Ball, who is the coordinator of peer services at Mental Health of America. How we established it is that we realized that there was a need to be present for people that were into adulthood regarding the issue of addiction, but more of an emphasis on recovery. The National Organization of Adult Addictions and Recovery is founded, it's seated in this theory of dimensionality. And the theory of dimensionality is, look, there's no magic. We're not your heroes. We can't fix you because you're not broken. But the reality of, is there a way that we can change the way that you look at yourself? Because the belief is, if you change the way that you look at yourself, it will change the way you look at others and the things that are going on in your life. So it was a theory that I created probably about 12 years ago called the theory of dimensionality. So now in discussion with Jim and Dave, what we start to realize and start to talk about is theories are wonderful. They give you a place to reference, but you really need a practice orientation. So our practice orientation is called Dimensional Solution-Based Treatment, DSBT. It's based upon a here and now theory. Everybody has a story, but we're really focused on here and the future. And from that, what morphed is a program that you're involved in and that you're participating in called Intersections. It's a group of modules. And the modules are supported and facilitated, presented by people that have an expertise in a particular area, whether it be movement, whether it be meditation, whether it be mindfulness. And today it is Debbie Just regarding the focus on nutrition. These modules of Intersections can be presented both in real time, face-to-face, or they can be presented through the use of technology. And we have defaulted for a variety of reasons to the issue of technology. And I know that you will really enjoy this, engage in it, because it's interactive. It's not a talking head presentation where the four of us are just going to talk to you. And we're really very excited about the fact that Deb is here. And at this point, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Jim Ball, and he's going to walk you through the next steps of our presentation.
Thanks a lot, Larry. Jim Ball here. As Larry said, I'm the peer coordinator at Mental Health America, and I also try to facilitate the programming of Intersections. I help bring it. I do want to bring on Dave Brinkerhoff just to quickly say hello. Dave is the head of the board of the MARC agency. Dave, are you there?
I'm here. Glad that everybody's here and looking forward to Debbie's presentation.
Great, thanks. So as Larry was introducing Intersections, you know, the way that we bring this to you is an integrative approach. This can be delivered by professionals. As Debbie, you will meet a nutrition professional, peer delivery, and I'm a peer, or a clinician, to talk a little bit about the peer delivery and the peer services that we provide at MHA. By way of introduction, I'll just say that I'm a person in long-term recovery. For the past 26 years, I've been working on my substance and mental health challenges day at a time. You know, I have through my recovery, I've been able to have a family. I do work I'm passionate about, and I've got some success with family and community. And these are the goals that we're looking to help you with, which are, you know, staying on your recovery plan, not having reoccurrences and winding back up in services. For my experience, I spent 10 years in and out, just trying to find a pathway to recovery that worked for me. And I think what intersections helps to bring is self-care. The pathway to recovery is through self-care. People recover by learning how to take care of themselves. And there's many pathways to doing that. Today we're going to be talking about nutrition. And just to circle back with what Larry was talking about with the dimensional solution-based treatment, the here and now, that's what we talk about in the theory behind the intersections, but it's also the pure approach, which is to meet people where they're at. And when we do that, we move forward from today. We're not looking at the past. We're not trying to, this isn't therapy. It's a way to develop life skills that will help us when that moment comes, and you're trying to make a choice. Am I gonna choose the path to stay in recovery, or am I gonna fall off? So I think that's enough for me right now, and I'll bring on Debbie. Debbie has been with us since the beginning. Some of you may have been there for her earlier sessions, but I see Debbie myself. I see her with my family, and she's someone I really respect and follow along her pathway to recovery. So Deb? Yeah, you got it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, great, thanks.
Thank you. So I'm Debbie Justs, and I've been in nutrition for over 35 years. I am a certified health and wellness coach, and I'm also a part of the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. Every time I've gone into intersessions, not virtually, but in person, I like to talk to the people, either the men or the women, or in the other homes where they're together. And what I would like to talk about today, if it's okay with everybody, is I love the fact that you talked about self-care, because that is a huge part of what I think food is about. It's, the way you look at food. What is it doing to me? What is it doing for me? And I think that's what people need to take away from food. It's either going to do something wonderful for you, or it can actually be poison to you. So I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about self-care and how to look at food differently. And also, food. Food is energy. When you're eating the right food, you have more energy within you, within your body. When I've been in person to the houses, people are pretty tired, and I get that, but I feel like if we can change our food, we can have a little bit more energy, and then when you have more energy, you can take better care of yourself. So the first thing that I'm thinking the last time I was there is I went through the pantry, and when I was in the pantry looking, a lot of the food there, maybe it didn't have sugar in it, but like a lot of the things, like all the white stuff, like white flour, white sugar, all of those things, they turn into sugar. And sugar actually gives you that big boost, and then it brings you down. And when it brings you down, that's when you find yourself looking for more sugar. Actually, sugar they say is more addicting than anything, because once you have a little bit, you want more. So I think what we need to do is really start looking at the pantry and start staying away from foods that we shouldn't be eating. A great thing for energy is fat. So fat, a really good fat would be olive oil, avocado or avocado oil, grapeseed oils. Good fats for your body. They help give energy. And I'm not talking about the fats that you would get in processed food. Those are the fats you want to stay away from. Also, when you're eating processed foods, they're loaded with sugar. And sugar is something that we need to stay away from. Fats is not what making, well, all right. So right now there's an epidemic going on, the pandemic with the corona, but there's also an epidemic of obesity. The best thing I can say is to stay away from anything that's processed. because processed has all the white sugar, all the white flour, and it also has all the bad fats. And that is not going to give you the energy that you're looking for. The energy is going to help you give you the self-care. So I'm talking more like foods for breakfast, like oatmeal. That's a great thing to have for breakfast. It actually helps feed the brain. Another thing to have is steel cut oats. And believe it or not, in steel cut oats, there's 9 grams of protein in that. And those are fairly reasonable in price. They're pretty cheap. If you go to Sam's Club or Costco or BJ's, you can get a big amount of that. But that's a great way to start the day. And another great thing to do to even make that better for you is to put maybe some coconut oil on top of that and some cinnamon for anti-inflammatory. Another thing that you could do is if you want butter, use grass-fed butter. And again, they sell all of those things at those big supply stores like Sam's Club, and they're always so much cheaper. So I think if we could just take, I'm trying to remember what was in the actual pantry. I know there was a lot of cakes, cookies, and candies and cake mixes and all of that, and there was oodles of noodles or something like that, but there were some right foods in there. So what I'm trying to say is if you want to get the energy, you got to get rid of the sugar and the stuff that's going to sap you from energy. It's going to take it away. And the way to do that is to read the ingredients. I would love to, well, right now we can't, but maybe another time is to take everybody through the pantry and show them exactly how to read a label. I think that's really important too. Another thing is that you have to do is when you're going into the pantry and looking at food is you got to break a habit. I was just on a call this morning with a client and she was telling me that she wanted to eat some junk the other day, and it wasn't just some, it was quite a bit. And so I asked her if she was hungry or if it was because she was bored, or is it a habit? So you have to take a look at why and what you're doing to yourself. You have to take a look at it. It can't just be like, I feel like having a brownie, I'm going to have a brownie. It has to be like, why do I want that brownie? If you're pre-diabetic, you definitely don't want to have that brownie. You want to stay away from sugars and processed foods, but we all have those cravings, but you have to say why. So what I tell everybody to do, and I think everybody should do this, is give yourself 20 minutes, have a big glass of water. A lot of times when you're looking for something to eat, the best thing to have is a big glass of water, because when you're thirsty or you're dehydrated, it can come along or it can feel like as hunger. So have a big glass of water, wait 20 minutes, see how you feel. And if you're still hungry, or if you're still want something, another thing that you can do is have a piece of fruit or eat something different than what you were going to do. I did it today myself. I felt like having something, bad. I don't want to say bad, but yeah. So something that I shouldn't be eating. So what I did is I had a big glass of water, waited 20 minutes. I had an apple, and I know that in the houses there are apples and there are oranges there because I've seen them, and you guys always tell me there's fruits there. Am I right on that, Jim? Right? There's always fruits there. So have a piece of fruit. The best thing about the fruit is that there's a little bit of sugar that's natural, and that is combined with the fiber. So you won't get that sugar rush, but what you'll get is you'll get that little bit of sugar, that little bit of satisfaction. You'll get that fiber that will fill you up, and you'll be satisfied. The most important thing you want to do is you want to feel satisfied, but definitely get that water in. Everybody should be drinking about 64 to 80 ounces of water, and that will also help with looking at stop eating junk or stop eating the bad things. Any questions? Anybody have any questions for me?
This is really good, Deb. All this is. I'm thinking myself. In the afternoon, I get in that lull. I'm pretty good. Breakfast, lunch. I can kind of watch things, but in the afternoon, I start craving either some caffeine or some sugar. And what you were saying about the glass of water, wait, piece of fruit. I know that I get the same amount of energy from a piece of fruit, but sometimes it's just easier for me to grab that cup of coffee.
Right. So don't do that. So the best thing to really do is to have a glass of water. And another thing to do is have that fruit. And if you have raw nuts, even if there's 4 to 5 raw nuts in the nut, gives you that good, healthy fat that gives you the energy that feeds the brain. Not only that, you're going to get that little bit of protein, which is going to help regulate your sugar. So it's like this phenomenal snack package. You got water, you have your fruit, you have your nuts. It's everything that you need to fill you up and feel satisfied and get energy from. It's an amazing snack. Even if it's an apple and you're using peanut butter, all natural peanut butter is better because there's no sugar in it. Have like a tablespoon or 2 with that. You can even put some cinnamon on that to give it an anti-inflammatory. Because most of us throughout, everybody is always inflamed. So you want to bring down the inflammation. So if you can add things like that, that's amazing. Cinnamon, even ginger. I love fresh ginger. You could take a little bit of fresh ginger and put that on top of your apple. A great thing to have is a pear with some almond butter and some ginger. Just, you have to really look at food differently. You have to look at it. What is it doing to me? What is it doing for me?
You know, your point is, you know, as I was listening to you talk, and you know that we value your presence here because of your expertise. And I hear you clearly. I mean, you're not just saying, you know, what's in a particular pantry in a particular place, because those things are in all of our pantries in all of our homes across the country.
Absolutely.
And prior to you know, us going live with our presentation, we talked about the pantry is not just an external pantry, but it's an internal pantry.
Absolutely.
So the idea of maybe you could give people some ideas, and then I have a follow-up question to that, but maybe you could give people some ideas of how they could go about thinking about what they will be engaging in, what they will be eating throughout the day. So it's not just a reaction. So maybe there's some strategies of how people can start to think about what their food intake is going to look like before they actually engage with the food.
I think that's great. I just had that discussion today with another client. She was picking foods just out of random, wasn't doing the right thing for herself. So what I told her, even though she's not going to the office, you have to be prepared for the day. So start your breakfast off right. And then after that, have your fruit next to you with your nuts and your water. So that when you feel like having something, instead of going for the dark chocolate or whatever, you're set up. You set yourself up for success. So when you set yourself up, you do the right thing. So you make sure you have your 2 or 3 clementines, you have your few raw cashews or whatever it is that you like. Also, you have to keep your mind focused on the goal. If the goal is to stay healthy, if the goal is to lose weight, that should be at the forefront of when you look at food. What is it doing to me? What is it doing for me? I live like that every day. I'm a health coach. I was an overweight kid. I look at things differently than most people do. And that's what you have to do. You have to, what is the goal you want? How is your health? Especially now with the coronavirus, if we ate a little bit better, we would feel better. If we got a little bit more vitamin C, and I mean, that would be great. Vitamin C actually helps build the immune system. And red peppers, bell red peppers have so much vitamin C. If you can't get strawberries, get the bell peppers. So yeah, so it's an internal thing. It's how you want to look. It's how you want to feel, not only feel, you know, for long term, for that moment. If you eat junk, you're going to feel like junk. If you eat good, you're going to feel good. It's that way. And the pantry in your mind, you gotta sometimes forget everything that's going on, and you got to live in the here and the now and take care of you. It's so hard for people to take care of themselves because they feel selfish, but you can't. You're in recovery. This is all about you and getting you right, because when you're right, you can bring that home when you're ready to go home, or when you're right, you can bring it on to the next person next to you. You can help them. When you're good, everything is good. You can give it to other people.
I love it. And the second part, I love what you just said. But the second part is that as a coach, you're involved in helping people learn.
Yes.
Learn new ways of doing business. Now, in dealing with other issues or substances or patterns of behavior, it's always encouraged to abstain. Abstinence is better than trying to moderate. That's great, except that paradigm, you can't abstain from food.
You
So
can't.
the fact is, what you're helping people do is developing a new relationship with food.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the thinking, and one of the things that that we really emphasize in the intersection program, it's all about the imagery too. That if people could close their eyes for a moment, and in the quiet part of their day, just hold on to the image, just by breathing in, breathing out, comfortably closing their eyes, and just hold on to the image of how they see themselves ideally, how they would really like to be, because we all do that, and the fact is that the power of imagery. I worked with a person one time that said people typically don't change their behaviors immediately. What they do is they develop this image, and then slowly but surely on a daily basis, they start to move towards that image of how they see themselves in an idealized setting. So maybe you could just talk for a moment about, strategies of, the self-talk or because there is no abstinence with food. But
No,
what would you recommend as a nutrition coach, a health coach, regarding this, developing maybe 2 or 3 strategies that people could use to develop this new relationship with food, therefore develop a new relationship with themselves?
Okay, so I think that is great. I think what people really need to do, anybody, not just here in Intercessions, but everybody. I love the fact of imagery, because I do that with my own clients. How do you see yourself? Where do you want to be yourself? What do you need to do to get there? Especially when it comes to food, because you can't stop eating. That doesn't work. But what I tell everybody to do, and I think these are great strategies to start with. Number one, the first thing you should do when you wake up in the morning is have a big glass of water. Why? Having that big glass of water actually speeds up your metabolism for an hour and a half, or about 28%. Also, it gets everything flowing. It gets the brain going. It gets your movement going, the body going, your circulation. It gets your bowels going, and that's huge. So even if you don't exercise first thing in the morning, your metabolism's already moving. Next thing is you have to eat breakfast. I think that is huge. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me, and I don't care. I've been doing this for 36 years. When a person doesn't eat breakfast and they don't eat the right breakfast, they feel mentally they don't have to do anything else right for the rest of the day. When you start your day right, you are right. You are more likely to finish that day, go through that day eating the right food. So you have to start the day right. Get the water in first thing in the morning. I have 20 ounces of water next to me, so that when I go to sleep, so when I wake up in the morning, I chug that down as soon as I wake up. That is a given in my life. That is a given. Next thing I do is I wait about an hour. There's something called the sweet point, or the sweet spot. It's 10, 12, and 14 hours after the last time you ate. That sweet spot actually helps you stay on track for the day. So I like to stay within the 12 to 14 hours. So I usually eat dinner. I'm done eating by 7 p.m. I don't know if other people do that, but you have to still go with the sweet spot, whatever your sweet spot is. So I do that. And I make sure that I eat a breakfast. And the breakfast I eat, and my son knows this, you have to feed the brain. If you don't feed the brain, your thoughts are going to be shitty. They're just going to be bad. So the most important thing you should do is feed the brain. The brain loves fat, loves it. Your brain is mostly made of fat. It's 70% made of fat. So when you eat good fat in the morning, like nuts, yogurt, protein, eggs. The yolks are really good for the brain. When you eat that, you're setting yourself up to make good decisions for the rest of the day. Oatmeal is amazing. It helps the brain. The steel cut oats help the brain. They actually help the brain. And when you feed the brain, you make better decisions. So if you want to stay on track, here's 3 things I would do. Make sure you're eating breakfast. Make sure you're getting the right fat in. Make sure also, on top of that, you're having a big glass of water before you even get out of the bed. Another thing is I do this every morning as well. And this really has nothing to do with food. When I wake up, I drink my water, go to the bathroom, because I just drank 20 ounces of water. I like to stay within myself, and I like to, I don't want to call it meditate, I pray. I pray on how I want my day to go. And when I pray and I think about my day, it goes that way. You have to do these things for yourself. These are the things that I would say to start with. You have to feed the brain. That is huge.
Well, Debbie, your message is loud and clear, so direct, and we're so glad that you were able to join us today. Jim, you want to provide any summary remarks, or Dave, any summary remarks? And then Jim, if you could give your contact information, and then Debbie, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. So Jim?
Yeah, well, thanks again, Deb, so much, you know, really clear message. Start with that water and the thought that, you know, I'm doing something good for myself. Recovery, as we know, is mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. And as we take care of ourselves and participate in our recovery, they're all important. If I'm not taking care of myself physically, it's going to make the rest of my recovery very difficult. So your message is great. Thank you so much. I'm gonna let Dave go, and then I'll just give some contact information at the end.
Thank you so much, Deb. The whole concept of fuel is great. Fuel for the day, and as long as you got the right fuel, the day will be success. Thanks.
Excellent.
So again, Jim Ball, peer coordinator, MHA. You guys can reach me at the agency. That's 845-473-2500. My extension is 1354. If you want to talk about peer services or recovery coach or anything else about intersections to make this connection, you can also reach me at jball@mhaduchess.org, and that information will also be on your worksheets that we're going to be supplying. So thanks again, and Larry, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, Deb, your message really clear, crisp, direct, and that's why we love you. You know, and the fact is that it's not only you talking about it, but you're living it. You know, and that's the key. I think we've all had contact with nutritionists across our life that may be telling us one thing, but not doing it themselves. But that's not you.
No.
So nice job. Bravo. How would people, if you could give your contact information, how could people reach out to you directly?
Sure. My name is Debbie Justs, and they can get in touch with me through my, I would say, website, which is www.weightlosscoach.com, or they can call me at 845-702-3210.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. Jim, thank you so much for facilitating it. David, thank you so much for your presence as well, because of the connections that you have that you know, are lifelong in the field of recovery. So we will see you next time, and our message to everyone is be well.